Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this is a video that is going to briefly analyze the chart of Barbara Streisand. And somebody had mentioned in a prior type of celebrity analysis that I did that I should use one of those apps that you can, hover over the chart and kind of like use the cursor and do all that kind of stuff and point at different things. And I tried to do that before this video, and I couldn't find an app that really worked with my computer. So I'm still going to try to find something where I don't have to get any kind of subscription or anything like that, and see if I can find something that's compatible with my particular computer. But I am actually just doing this on the spur of the moment. I was listening to to Barbara Streisand do a duet with Neil Diamond. You Don't Bring Me Flowers, and then that led me to listen to her do that duet with one of the Bee Gees. I'm a Woman in Love. I think it was Barry Gibb. So, I was getting involved with that, and I thought, well, let me look at her astrological chart. And I have to give a bit of a disclaimer. When I was growing up, Barbara Streisand had some hits, and I'm talking about in the late 70s. I know that she had hits before then as well. But when I was a kid, that was what I was familiar with. Late 70s, early 80s, and the Broadway stuff, all of that other stuff, I'm not really familiar with, and I'm really not familiar with a lot of her personal life. I know little tidbits, but I don't know the whole thing. And so sometimes I don't really like doing these types of videos for people that I don't know inside and out, the different things they've experienced in life. But I just wanted to do a brief look at some of the things that I see here. One of the things that I feel about Barbara Streisand from my own point of view, because I have seen several of her movies, and although Barbara Streisand is a singer, she also made movies for other people, like in the early 70s. I remember What's Up, Doc? I think she was in that one. On a Clear Day, You Can See Forever. That was in earlier in the 70s. But she actually was totally controlling whole projects. Like Yentl is an infamous example of that. But there are other movies that she did a remake of The Star Is Born, for instance. And the reason I'm bringing this up is my partner and I did see that remake. I can't remember when, a few years ago. And it was just like really funny because it was so cheesy, you know what I mean? And there's a quality about Barbara Streisand that has that over the top aspect to it, where it's very theatrical, but also very exaggerated. And I wanted to see what was in her nature that could possibly make her like this. Now, some people really like that. You could say somebody like the late Freddie Mercury, for instance, although he took it to a new level. And he had his own shtick, obviously. Everybody has their own thing. I'm talking about, I really, it's a no-brainer that she is an amazing singer. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I'm talking about some of the other things going on with her professional life that kind of either hindered that perception of her or somehow, kind of contradicts, kind of like overshadows sometimes her singing and her talent with that. And I think the movies that she got involved with, oh yeah, there was this movie called The Mirror Has Two Faces or something like that. I remember seeing that. It's like, how come I've seen so many Barbara Streisand movies that she actually produced? She might have written it too. I should have like at least done a little legwork on seeing if she wrote Yentl and stuff. I have a feeling she was like totally controlling these projects, and that's where these, tabloid rumors and all this kind of stuff about her being difficult come from. And I do want to acknowledge that some of those things may either be exaggerated or just plain flat out lies. Like I remember reading somewhere that she would not allow somebody to look at her. And of course, sometimes when you become a celebrity, maybe you get a little bit goofy, and that's why you do those kinds of things. So I would cut her a break on that end, even if she did do something like that, where it just gets to be too intense about always having eyes on you. And so, it might not be an ego thing necessarily, but it could be, you know what I mean? So if it's true. So I just wanted to take a brief look at her chart and point out a few things that either contradict what I just said or go along with it. First of all, one of the reasons I was a bit confused is that Barbara Streisand is a Taurus. And Taurians tend to be kind of nondescript. They're not over the top. They're not, overly emotive. They're an earth sign. They're down to earth. So they don't really put on airs like, a fire sign might exaggerate movements and behavior. If they're going to sing, they're going to sing. As a matter of fact, it's so funny because for some, how you get into this YouTube, I don't want to say like a death spiral, but it just like, one thing leads to another. So I was watching they recommended Kelly Clarkson to me for some reason. I don't know why. But then I watched something with her, about her on American Idol, and she is a Taurus. And she's the perfect example of somebody who is very, she's just like a down-to-earth singer. But she, I'd have to look at her chart because she does have her own lively qualities and, she's very extroverted. So she might not be the typical Taurus either. So that might be a terrible example, but that's kind of where I was at tonight. But when she talks, at least she seems very down to earth. And Barbara Streisand is a little bit different because she does have a reputation of being very in control of her image. And I think that was another aspect of it, is that she wanted to be photographed from certain angles, and she was just like totally controlling all of the things that come out about her. And so I wanted to see like what could be going on with her. And so Taurus isn't really a sign that we associate with doing that kind of thing. Taurians tend to be very nondescript, like I said. But guess what? She has a moon in Leo. So there you go. We found the culprit. And, not to be outdone, she's got Aries rising. So we have two fire signs, the moon sign, which is the emotional nature, but even it can be the creative output, and in Leo, which is, and in the fifth house that Leo rules. So that can be like that very extroverted, what I was going to say is attention whorish, moon in Leo, and in the fifth house, which Leo rules. And I have the moon in the fifth house, but I have it in Virgo. I don't have it in Leo. When you have it in Leo and it's in its own house, you're going to have a double whammy. You're going to have that double effect. And And then with the rising sign, we're looking at the image that the person is projecting and how other people perceive them. So in her case, it's Aries. And what is Aries? Well, Aries is the ruler of the first house. And guess where her sun is? Her sun is in that first house. So even though her sun is in Taurus, because it's in the first house, it's going to have a sub-influence of Aries. And I think that this is a big reason why she has the reputation that she does. People with the sun in the first house are natural born performers because they are extroverted. A performer who is very shy, who goes on the stage and comes alive, yeah, those kinds of people exist and they might be very successful. But if somebody is it's funny because she actually has stage fright. She would not do a lot of live performances, as I recall. Again, I don't really know her personal life that well, but I think that's pretty well publicized that she had stage fright. But I think that had something to do with her relationship with her mother. I'll get to that in a minute because I think she had a controlling mother, maybe a very critical mother. I'm not like 100% sure what their relationship was like, but I'll explain why I think that that may have played into things. So, but in general, people with the sun in the first house are confident and extroverted. And really, those two things go hand in hand when you think about it. She also has a conjunction with Mercury. That's not like, really earth-shattering because Mercury is very close to the sun, but not everybody does have this. And so that would just indicate somebody not only who's intelligent, but also who wants to communicate who they are to others when it's in the first house. And so the reason this is important for celebrity, because, the 10th house can be the house of fame, but the first house is the house of the self. And when you're first starting out, you sometimes, if you don't have a lot of backing, you have to promote yourself. And you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And so if you have Mercury in the first house in conjunction with the sun, you're able to put in a good word for yourself and actually push yourself out into, so that, kind of like your own PR agent and get yourself known through that way of in other words, like self-promotion. So this gives the desire to have attention, to have the sun in the first house. Can give self-absorption, where the person is very concerned about their image, their own success as an individual, and just their individual self. Now, the other thing that I wanted to note is that her sun in Taurus is only at 3 degrees, so it is very close to Aries as well. And because this is the unequal house system that I use and many other astrologers use, you can easily have 2 signs in one house, as she does in that first house. She has Aries, most of Aries and half of Taurus in that first house. So even though her sun and Mercury are in Taurus, they still share most of Aries in that first house. And so that alone can give her a more pushier type of persona, where she wants to, call the shots, if you will, and where she's very much that hustler when it comes to trying to promote herself, or saleswoman, you could say. So This can rub people the wrong way, and this may be why people either misunderstand her if they do, or why she gets the kind of press that she does sometimes. And I'm not saying that she is somebody who is, mainly has a bad reputation. I don't think that she does necessarily have a bad reputation, but kind of that diva quality definitely showing up here with the moon in Leo in the fifth house and having Aries rising. And it can rub people the wrong way because some people do not like pushy behavior. They don't like people that they feel may be arrogant, thinking that they're better than others. Again, I'm not saying this is her nature, but with the moon in Leo, it can, if the person is not balanced in terms of their personality, their character, then they can be the type of person who comes across to others as arrogant. Fire energy can come across as arrogance because the person is absorbed in their own creative self-expression and feeling very much like an individual. And so it's really about knowing yourself and knowing, once you know who you are, other people can say, who do you think you are, because you are very self-possessed. So when I look at her second house, it's very interesting because she has Saturn and Uranus, and they are at a perfect conjunction of 28 degrees of Taurus. So here's your Taurus energy in Taurus's house, the second house. Her sun is in Taurus, as is her Mercury, but at early degrees. And this is why they are far apart from that Saturn and Uranus. The second house of earned income, to have Saturn here, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person grew up without money. But if that is the case, if that person did not grow up, either they were lower middle class or they were low income, then that person can be extremely frugal as an adult because Saturn can be restrictive. It can be very disciplined in the area of money in the second house. And that means that that person knows how to stretch a dollar until it squeaks, I think they say. And yet it's coupled here with Uranus. I mean, it's an exact conjunction. So this could be the place of hitting it big all of a sudden, just out of the blue. Maybe going from rags to riches and that kind of thing. But there's kind of like this erratic quality, this sudden quality that Uranus represents. And maybe it can be at different times of life if things get activated. Certainly when the transing Uranus goes through her house, which will probably be coming up for her in 2022, more likely. I mean, maybe 2021. I haven't checked how far it's going to get, but definitely by 2022. And, there are celebrities where sometimes they are wealthy and then they lose their wealth and they regain it. Uranus can be kind of these wild swings in finances, although because she has Saturn in conjunction with it, it probably would never be enough to completely destabilize her financially. And she's probably worth so many millions of dollars that I can't see it truly affecting her. But it's just so interesting for her to have Uranus in conjunction with Saturn in that second house. it might have been something that when she was very young, there was some kind of instability in her family of origin in the area of money. And that being a Taurus sun and having Mercury in Taurus, if that was even partially the case only, that could still really inform how she lives her life, because people who are Taurians who grow up with lack of material resources, they will be more affected by it than someone who is less materialistic. And according to the birth data, she was born in Brooklyn. And if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn is basically working class. That is an area that is considered working class. So, or middle class at best, but definitely working class. So if that's how she was raised, then, just by virtue of that, there might have been times when things were more stable than others, but in general, she may have aspired to get to the next level after that, just because of the natural tendency of children to want to better themselves. Or when I'm saying children, I'm talking about adults. From, based on their childhoods. So in her third house, she has, one thing I want to say though, before I continue, is that because of her being a Taurus, because having Mercury in Taurus, and having Saturn in the second house in particular, Barbara may be looking at her craft also for the lucrative angle. It could simply be that she feels it's, she's due to make a good living. Maybe if she had the desire for material stability with a Saturn in that second house. And so that can motivate an artist to take on specific projects. And they may do it for the most financial gain. Again, I'm not saying that that is what she's done, but she is very commercial. And, that can indicate that the person is trying to get the maximum amount of, popularity that they can get, instead of having a cult following, that they want, the more the merrier. The other thing about Uranus in the second house is it can indicate somebody like a musician or a singer who does gigs, and so their money is erratic. I mean, they get paid after they do their latest concert. They're not working 40 hours a week and getting, a reliable a paycheck that way, but they still might really do well financially. That's the trick. Is that if you make enough money, even if you're not getting like a steady paycheck, it's still enough to kind of cover when you're not necessarily working as much. So in the third house, which is the house of media, communication, so writing and vlogging and all that kind of stuff, we have Jupiter and Mars in this house for her. And I just happened to see one of her videos. or even the videos that I was telling you I'd been watching tonight, I guess you could say. And there's like I don't know if that would be specifically connected to the third house, because the third house is really about how you communicate your ideas. And she does have Mars and Gemini in this house. Gemini rules the third house in the universal chart. So it's really about teaching and learning and communicating. It's also connected to the media. So when somebody has Mars in Gemini's third house, and she also has Jupiter here, she can be very, let's see, is there a conjunction here between these two planets in Gemini? Yes, there is. So that is certainly fortunate. And I could see somebody who gets good press, who really seeks it out. And if you seek, you shall find. And I don't know what her relationship with the press is like. If any of you have more information based on your, reading biographies or what have you, if you just know about her life and something I'm saying, you want to kind of clarify things or just counter what I've said or add to it, please do so in the description below. I'd love to hear more information about her. But but it gives me the feeling that the press is on her side overall. Like I said, I did, hear a few other things, but that doesn't make it true. A lot of times these things get distorted. But with Mars and Gemini, she wants to communicate for sure. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if she ever writes her own songs. I mean, she tends to be a interpreter of songs versus an actual songwriter. So just that kind of observation. She might be really good at something like writing. If she ever decided to write a fiction or memoir, I don't think she's ever written any kind of like an autobiography or a memoir. But it seems like if she did do it, she'd be very successful. Like she really needs to be successful, right? And one thing, this is a good time to mention with the Mars angles here, because Mars is her ruler, because it is the ruler of the ascendant sign of Aries, so that becomes her ruler. And it's in the house of communication with Jupiter. So what this can mean with this conjunction between Mars and Jupiter is that the person is over the top in some of the things that they are trying to do. So they may take on big projects. And, I think the 11th house is supposed to be motion pictures, but I would kind of also include the third house, at least with the media itself. And definitely the fifth house is creativity. And so that might indicate that she's always has these grandiose ideas that she wants to put into play with that conjunction. And another interesting thing is that she has a square between Mars and Neptune. When somebody has a challenging angle between Mars and Neptune, they can tend to be quite confused about their motivations. They do things, but they don't know quite why they're doing them. They have confusion about why they persist a certain relationship only to totally become disillusioned. Neptune is a planet of deception, delusion, being overly idealistic. She has Jupiter square this as well. So there can be this over the top, quality in her artistic self-expression, which that could be represented by Neptune. And the Jupiter square is showing that it is not really, it's like excessive. And when I'm trying to like pinpoint why that happens, I think it has something to do with Aries, the Aries influence that she has. Or the sun in the first house, like exaggeration can be, or even the Leo energy of trying to make it about her. One of the things that they said was this idea of being like totally in control of projects from start to finish. And I don't know, maybe it's as a woman, maybe she was receiving some kind of undercover sexism with that, where people are saying, who does she think she is? Trying to direct this project, because I think she is also a director, I'm not sure. And these are her own movies, is what I'm talking about, that she was totally involved in every aspect of. And sometimes fire energy like Leo or Sag comes on Leo, Aries, and Sag comes on very strong, and that can be off-putting to certain people who like more subtlety, who like, if it's dealing one-on-one with people, who like people who are more laid back, because there's like kind of an emotional quality as well with these positions. So there's those things going on. And looking at her fourth house of home and family, she has the moon there, she has Chiron, and she has Pluto. I wanted to see about Chiron. So there's that's very interesting. She has a lot of afflictions. Well, she has two conjunctions. The sun in conjunction with Pluto, and the moon in conjunction with Pluto, and the moon in conjunction with Chiron. That definitely makes her, with the conjunction with Chiron, it's like having the moon in Pisces. So that can actually indicate somebody who is deeply insecure. And so this is where I wanted to talk about her relationship with her mother. I actually thought that her moon was in Virgo. I think I'm getting her confused with what's her name? Shirley MacLaine, who I believe is also born on April 24th. I don't know what year Shirley was born, though. I think she's older I know she's older than Barbara. But anyway, I think Shirley has the moon in Virgo. But Barbara, I think, had a mother who was very overbearing. And so Barbara has the moon in conjunction with Pluto. I have that as well, so I understand what that entails. This is like having the moon in Scorpio. And they will say that the person with the moon in conjunction with Pluto can be quite emotionally intense and even subtly dominating their environment because of their own emotional intensity. And it can also indicate having a mother who is devouring, who's very controlling, who wants, sometimes the mother is very envious of her daughter for different reasons. In some cases, it could be because she's very, she feels that the daughter's, her competition is more beautiful, is more talented. Okay, so this is funny because I just decided to look it up online. I just put Barbara Streisand mother. The first thing that popped up was this website called canoe.com. And the funny thing is, this was a headline from November of 2018, so it was very recent, a couple of years ago. Barbara Streisand says her mother was jealous of her. And that's the headline from this website. And what she said is that her mother raised her alone because her father died when she was an infant. And I'm just going to read a quote that she said. She said, "I think there are parents who really don't like themselves. They don't like their offspring either. My mother meant well. She loved me as best she could. She had dreams of her own, and she wanted to be a singer. She was jealous, and that was staggering for me to learn. She never hugged me or said, 'I loved you.'" Streisand, known for her diva ways, okay, so I'm not off on that, added in the emotional interview about Diana, "She never praised me to my face, but I have a feeling she praised me to other people." Okay, so she's married to James Brolin. I knew she was married to someone else, so she's still married to him. And she had a hard time having somebody hug her because of like the coldness or something from her mother. And her mother was very critical too, even of her voice. So the bottom line is that, there are different ways that this can manifest, but when you have the moon in conjunction with Pluto, it's very possible that there are issues with the mother. And she has a conjunction between the moon and Chiron, so that can really indicate somebody who is very emotionally sensitive. Artists usually are, that's going to be a given, but I was actually surprised to see this because she does come across as somebody who knows what she wants and is confident and things like that. But she's able to show her vulnerability in these interviews and not to try to pretend that she's above it all. So that can certainly indicate somebody who is very connected to her pain and isn't afraid to kind of let other people know about it. And it's funny, in the article that I just quoted, they said her secretly rough relationship with her mother. But like I said, I had heard about this. I mean, I don't think it was as secret as they say it was. And so then you have in the 6th house, and this is, I just want to say that this is in the house of love. To have Chiron in the 5th house can be not feeling loved. And that's how she kind of communicates that. So she did not feel loved by her mother. So that may have translated also into failed relationships because she has been married, although she may be friendly with her son's father. I don't know the extent of relationships. Actually, one of the things I was going to say that I thought was funny is that when she did the Star is Born remake and had Chris Christopherson there, who was playing a character who I think was supposed to be like a Jim Morrison type of character. It seemed to me like she had this one scene where he was in taking a bath and she was in there. And of course, Chris Christopherson was a real sex symbol in the 70s. And I thought it was gratuitous. And it was funny because here she is, the woman. I'm not saying, sexual harassment or anything, but I thought it was like, since she was the executive producer and she was involved in the movie so much, she could call the shots. And then if she, had the hots for Chris Christopherson, she could say, okay, there's going to be a scene where you have to be naked in a tub. Yeah, it's just part of the script, just do what you're told. But I don't know if she had a romantic dalliance with him, or if they were even a couple. They might have been. But I just thought that was kind of funny. And if I'm not mistaken, he might be a Taurus as well, but I might be mistaken about that. In any case, the fifth house is a house of creativity and love. And so definitely when you have the moon in the fifth house, if any of you have that, you want to be creative because it's important for your emotional well-being. In the sixth house, she has the North Node and Neptune. Neptune in the sixth, because it is connected to artistic pursuits, can indicate that type of a career. The North Node is in Virgo of all signs, and it's in the sixth house of work, this is the house that Virgo represents in the universal chart. So it's very much like the person who has a strong work ethic, and the North Node is your Dharma. So it's kind of strange, to have somebody like this famous, very, very talented singer who has the North Node in Virgo's sixth house. Like, what does that mean for an artist? Well, what that really means to me is that the person is going to take their in her case, singing, like somebody else would take plumbing, and they're going to do it in a way that is very methodical and treat it like a job. And that means respected in that way too. And so rather than just being like this spaced out artist who's not really concerned with material matters, this can indicate somebody who wants to have discipline, maybe even their craft, disciplining it if their voice is, they feel like when they age, they're losing their voice. A voice coach can maybe have some kind of exercise that allows them to whistle or whatever it is that they want to do. Not whistle, but I mean, do those vocal exercises. Actually, it's interesting now that I think about it, because Judy Collins, who is in her 70s, if I'm not mistaken, I actually saw a concert of hers, a pretty intimate concert, probably about 10 years ago, when she, I think, was in her late 60s or around the age of 70. So she might be pushing 80 right now. And she was a big folk singer, but, had popular success in the, she did Send in the Clowns in the 70s. So that's one of those hits that made it to the pop, the top of the pops or what have you. But I'm talking about, she had a folk career. And so she was very disciplined about her voice. And, she really did exercises and stuff like that. And her voice was amazing when I heard her, because she was already advanced in age like that. And usually these types of, even the best of the singers, they can start to lose it. And she didn't lose anything. And she was kind of like a Joan Baez type. I mean, they didn't have exactly similar voices, but they both were kind of contemporaries, I guess you would call them. So, yeah, it was just really impressive. And and she's a Taurus, I think. So there you go. Taurus rules the throat, so it's associated with singing and singers. Okay, so there's that. And then Barbara has her Venus in the 12th house, which can indicate sometimes that kind of Venus in Pisces vibe of like sacrificing for your partner. She also has the literal Venus in Pisces in her chart. And sometimes the 12th house, if you have Venus there, can indicate getting involved with married people because, kind of sneaking around, and it just feels like normal to do that. I don't know anything about, I don't think that she has that background or anything like that. I have no way of knowing, but she certainly seems happy in her current marriage. It may have taken her a long time to find the right person because she, I do think that was I don't know if that was her first person she actually married or not, but maybe that she was able to stay with. And that's significant if you are up in years, that you spent a lot of time being disappointed in love, perhaps, and not having what you want, and then you get it. And definitely with Venus is exalted in Pisces, and in the 12th house, which is Pisces house, there can be that soulmate situation happening. So hopefully that she has found that with his name escapes me, the man I mentioned earlier, who's an actor, James Brolin. There you go. Okay, well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I said I was going to just do a brief reading and look at where the time has gone, so not sure if anybody's going to stay for the whole 47 minutes, but if you have done so, thank you so much. And I am going to do more of these because they're a lot of fun. Take care. Bye.